Hey everyone,
I'm Tim, and I've just finished a 9-month odyssey around Latin America. Now I'm reopening my diaries, and this time I'm bringing you along with me. Week by week, country by country, all the colors, all the craziness, all the food, all the music, and all the splendor. 9 months when each morning was a new adventure. The road was my companion, and Latin America cast its spell on me. This is my Latin America Diaries. Welcome back to my Latin America Diaries. We left the beautiful city of Mendoza and headed north on an Aerolíneas Argentinas flight towards the Argentinian city of Salta. Not to be confused with Salto, the Uruguayan city that I visited a few weeks ago. From our window seats on the left side of the plane, we were treated to incredible views of the Andes Mountains. I'm pretty sure the peak I was zooming in on here is Aconcagua, the highest mountain in the Americas, standing at 6,961 meters. The flight itself was a short one, and very soon we were arriving in Salta, which is a historic old colonial town. I didn't mind it at all, actually. I thought it was quite pleasant, but Amit wasn't so much of a fan. Salta felt different from Mendoza. It was more Andean, while Mendoza had a more Mediterranean vibe. We were in Salta because we had planned to cross the Andes by road, an epic and spectacular journey that had been part of our trip from the beginning. Initially, we had considered driving from Mendoza to Santiago in Chile, but since our itinerary was taking us north to the Atacama Desert, we opted to fly up to Salta and cross at a northern border crossing. After getting our bearings, we took a walk around the town and then walked over to the Salta bus station just to reconfirm our tickets for the next day, and it was there that we were told to fill out the Chilean immigration form online and have the copy of our responses available on our phones for the bus ride the next day. We also wanted to find something a bit different to eat. We had been enjoying Argentinian food up to that point, but we had certainly had our fill of asado, empanadas, and milanesa, and so we thought that we'd sort of scout around for potentially something a little bit different, and that's when we happened across not one, but 2 Korean restaurants on the same street. I didn't realize that Korean food was such a thing in rural Argentina. But anyway, we sat down to a delicious, if not entirely authentic, but delicious nonetheless, Korean meal on our last night in Argentina. That night we stayed at Design Suites, our base in Salta, and the next morning, very early, we grabbed an Uber to the bus station and boarded the Pullman bus for the 10-hour journey over the Andes to San Pedro de Atacama in Chile. This bus can be booked online, and just a tip, take lots of food and drinks with you because for the entire journey it didn't stop for a meal anywhere. The bus pulled out of the Salta bus station just after 6 a.m. and very soon we were speeding across the northern Argentinian countryside in the early morning light, through the province of Jujuy. Just outside of the city of Jujuy, we began our ascent into the mountains. The city of Jujuy sits at an altitude of 1,250 meters, and throughout the rest of that morning our bus climbed up to the Paso de Jama, which is the border crossing, at 4,200 meters. The road twisted and turned as we ascended, and the scenery grew more and more spectacular with every kilometer. At times the road wrapped around on itself, letting us see the hairpin turns that we had just navigated. If the view didn't take our breath away, then the altitude certainly would have. As we were sitting there on the bus, we could feel the air getting thinner and thinner, and the bus actually carries an emergency supply of oxygen tanks just in case anyone needs it, but thankfully nobody did. Altitude sickness is something that can affect people at altitudes like this, but it tends to be worse when people are doing strenuous or any activity. And at that point, we were being pretty passive and just sitting on the bus, so it wasn't an issue. As we reached the top of the pass, the terrain flattened out somewhat. We traversed the Salar de Olaroz, a salt flat, some areas of which are actively mined for salt. After a few more twists and turns, we arrived at the small village of Jama, where we would complete the immigration formalities to leave Argentina and enter Chile. Now at this point in the trip, I was so grateful for a break because I was busting to use the toilet. And although there was a toilet on the bus, the driver had told us in no uncertain terms that it was not for number 2s. So anyway, when we arrived at Paso de Jama, I asked someone if I could use the toilet. It was in the Chilean side of the building, so I was actually ushered over there and then allowed to use the bathroom before passing the border formalities and in Argentina, then doubling back to the Chilean side in order to get stamped into that country. While I was waiting in line, I immediately spotted a llama milling around outside the office. It seemed very intent on getting inside. Perhaps it wanted to cross into Chile too. This whole journey was just spectacular. Even looking at the videos now and reflecting on it, it takes my breath away. And I think that this was another real milestone on my trip across Latin America. Mexico and Colombia were obviously different, but a lot of what I did there was sort of urban and cultural exploration. Brazil was full of color and there was music and it was carnival and beaches. And then I sort of moved into a more natural part of the trip with Iguazu Falls and Ushuaia. And then here I was in the deserted landscapes of the roof of the world. The high altitude scenery is unlike anything else. It looks almost like the surface of the moon, which makes sense why filmmakers come here. It's so otherworldly. The only place I can really compare it to is parts of the Pamir Highway in Tajikistan that I visited in 2010. High altitude, desolate and dramatic. The lakes reflected the sky so perfectly, like mirrors for the drifting white clouds above, hovering over the otherworldly moonscape. By mid-afternoon, we were making our way down the other side of the mountain and towards the desert oasis town of San Pedro de Atacama. This part of Chile is one of the driest places on Earth. Only Antarctica is drier, although when you think about it, Antarctica is technically uninhabited, so San Pedro de Atacama is the driest town on Earth. The bus careened down a long straight stretch as we approached the town. We were hurtling directly towards our destination and arrived at San Pedro at around 4 p.m. San Pedro de Atacama really is a service town for all of the tourism that takes place in the desert in that part of Chile. And as a result, everything needs to be brought in and prices are that much higher for goods and services. When we arrived at the bus station, there was only one taxi driver milling around, and I think he knew that he could pretty much charge us whatever he wanted to. Being the stubborn people that we are, we decided to haul our luggage to the hotel for that night instead. One problem, San Pedro de Atacama has mostly unpaved streets, so it was our luggage versus sandy streets. Eventually we made it though, and it was quite the adventure. We checked into Casa Solcor, a boutique bed and breakfast on the outskirts of town. It was gorgeous, a true desert sanctuary, although we certainly paid for the experience. Walking around San Pedro, the town offers breathtaking views straight down the streets towards the volcanoes, including the perfect cone of Volcano Licancabur. At the time, we didn't realize that we'd soon be getting up close and personal with those volcanoes just a few days later. And stay tuned, because this Sunday I will be releasing a special episode detailing our trip into Bolivia and the Salar de Uyuni, the Uyuni salt flat. It was one of the most mind-blowing experiences of the trip, completely unlike anything that we'd done up to that point. 3 days that rank among the most memorable of my life. In the meantime, I'd appreciate it if you could like this video, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to make sure that you are notified when I upload new episodes from this series. And if you really like what you're seeing, please share it across social media and tell your family and friends about it. It really helps me show the world Latin America through my eyes. That evening, we went for a lovely dinner at a place just around the corner from Casa Solcor. It was a Chilean barbecue grill kind of thing. I think it was attached to the Hostel Ají Verde. Really great experience dining under the stars, although again, it's San Pedro de Atacama, so it certainly wasn't cheap. I had also decided that I wanted to get out into the desert, so that night after dinner, I booked a tour for the next day out to Valle de la Luna, or the Moon Valley, which is an iconic part of the Atacama Desert. The next day, Amit hung around the town and I headed out to join my tour out into the deserted wilderness. Valle de la Luna is remarkable. The entry area was once mined for salt, and the rocks still contain natural salt deposits. These are believed to be remnants of an ancient inland sea or lake, which left its mark on the desert millions of years ago. Our guide took us into one of the former quarries, where we could see the salt on the rocks and even hear it slowly cracking and reacting with the air. an uncanny experience, like nature was quietly moving right before our eyes. We then explored rock formations such as the Three Marias, a group of iconic rock structures in the desert. The landscape is otherworldly, incredibly dry, and still at a significant altitude, 2,500 meters, high enough that the thin air is noticeable but not dangerous for short visits. The feeling of emptiness out there is profound, and you realize why this region is home to one of the world's deep space observatories. The skies are clear, dry, and free from light pollution. Next, our guide took us to the base of one of the sand dunes, which we then started hiking up for some spectacular views across the desert and the snow-capped volcanoes of the Andes, visible in the distance. We also visited Valle de la Muerte, where we could see the layers of rock revealing millions of years of geological history. The tour concluded at the famous sunset viewpoint, Piedra del Coyote, or Coyote Rock, overlooking the Valle de la Luna. At sunset, the colors of the rocks transform. It doesn't look like the moon, it looks more like Mars. I've never felt closer to another planet. That night, I returned to San Pedro de Atacama. Later still, I took a walk out to the edge of the town to see the stars. I found a small sandy hill, I lay back on it, and as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, the entire Milky Way unfolded before me. I returned to the hotel and slept in the shadow of the Andes and its majestic volcanoes, knowing full well that early the next morning we would need to wake up and we would be heading directly for them. That's coming up this Sunday on a special vlog, special episode of Latin America Diaries, detailing our jam-packed trip into the wilderness of southwestern Bolivia and the Uyuni Salt Flats. Make sure that you tune in again then, because you will not want to miss this one.